Glenn Gould was a pianist who passed away in 1982. He was famous for his performances and his recordings, especially for his interpretations of Bach. He was famous for his eccentricities too, his performance style. He would also wear warm coats in the summer. He would never shake anyone's hand for fear of contracting germs or hurting his hand. He was a famous hypochondriac. But one of the most shocking things that he did in his career was when he gave up live performance forever in favor of recording. It was something that was completely unthought of. A performer performed live. That's what you did. That's what you do. You toured. But Gould was made very anxious by the presence of an audience. He didn't enjoy how they tended to think like and act like a mob. He found them a threatening presence. And he also was excited by the technologies that were available to him in the recording booth. He would do multiple takes of each section of music and eventually edit the best takes together to create the whole recording. And some people accused that of not being pure, that a real performance is done all at once in one long flow. And his argument to that was rational. He said, you don't expect a composer to compose all at once. Why would you expect a performer to perform that way? It's just that the technology has never been available to performers to do it that way. The only technology that a composer needed was a pencil and paper. The technology for a performer took longer to be arrived at. So it was the technology, but it was also the intimacy. Intimacy was a very important part of what Gould did. And he found that performing to an audience was not intimate. And he summed it up mathematically. He said the ideal ratio for the optimal amount of intimacy in a given situation between an artist and a listener is 0 to 1. Meaning that if the artist is present, then the listener shouldn't be. If the listener is present, then the artist shouldn't be. And that's what recording allowed him. Alone recording, he could be as intimate as he wanted to be. And with the listener alone listening to the recording, they could have as intimate an experience as they were capable of having. There's a scene in a film that talks about this whole idea too. It's in 8½" by Federico Fellini, and it's late in the film. It's a scene where they've all been taken to a castle, and the main character, played by Marcello Mastroianni, and the other main character, played by Anouk Amier, find themselves in a whisper room, which is a room that, placed in a very specific place, you can hear the whispers of somebody else in another room because of the acoustics. So sitting in the chair where you can hear, Mastroianni listens to the whispers of Anouk Amier. And it's the first moment, maybe the only moment in the entire film, of intimacy. She's honest with him for the first time, because he is not there forcing her to be the type of person she assumes she must be for him, and all of the anxieties that we cause each other aren't there anymore, and intimacy and honesty can happen. It happens on an even more everyday level than that. when you're really listening to somebody who's saying something very intimate, you'll often drop your eyes and even drop your head. You're removing yourself. You're removing yourself from the situation so that that person is allowed to be as intimate as possible. But in removing yourself in a way from the experience, you're allowed to have as intimate an experience as possible. And it's very important. It happens when engaging with any type of art. In a painting, the painter isn't present, so you can have as intimate experience as you're capable of having with that painting. It happens in film when you're looking at a star performing in close-up. There's nothing to stop you from identifying as intimately as you can with that image, with that presence. Because there's no risk anymore. You're alone with it. It's happening right now. As I'm making this, you're not here. This is just the lens and a camera. There's nothing to keep me from being as honest as I'm capable of being. Except myself. And you watching this, I'm not here. This is an image of me. I'm not actually here. There's no threat from me. There's nothing to keep you from having as intimate an experience with this as is possible. And that's very important. It's very important to have intimate experiences with things. Because having an intimate experience with an object or an idea or a feeling is the very first step of having an intimate relationship with life.